I was giving a talk at Rotary yesterday, and we were having the same discussion. And the discussion sort of started with the age-old adage to get a good job, get a good education. And I think the problem is that it's been taken the wrong way. It's been taken that get an education and then you step from here into a training situation where then you get a job, right? I would like to think that we are not a technical institute. We are not a training center. We are an educational institution. And I kind of got distressed when I saw Malloy's speech because he kept talking about jobs and relating it to labor union. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Gail Gelbert. I'm the chair of the Visual Arts Department. I get families, parents coming into my office all the time saying, well, what kind of job is my John or Charlotte or Shelley going to get when they graduate? And my response is, we teach them creativity. We teach them to think outside the box. We teach them to solve problems. So I get very distraught when I see that the proceeds to the institutions may be based on job placement, because a lot of our students will go into jobs that may not have anything to do with what their major is, but they got a liberal arts education that educated the whole person. And now we have a better educated workforce in whatever kind of position it is that they're getting. And they can, as our representative said so beautifully, is that then they can go on their own. They can be self-employed. They can start small businesses. So, you know, one of the things I'd like to ask the legislators is what they think about that whole connection between labor and workforce and the amounts of funding that's going to go to each of the institutions.
Well, that comes back to that question about moving the 15%. I mean, there's a bigger global question that you're asking, which I think is very important, but, right in terms of the biennial budget, depending on how they define that criteria, well, I'm not even sure that there should be, quite frankly, the ability to move up to 15% around. I mean, that's kind of what the legislature is supposed to do, set, the parameters in terms of spending, and that allows the colleges and universities to then have a budget, a 12-month budget going forward with some certainty in that. But, you're right. I mean, we have gotten away from the whole idea that a college education is a fulfillment in and of itself, and the realization that, certainly people are going to change jobs numerous times over their working life. I think that there's, to kind of explain why there's this other point of view coming, I think there's sort of a desperation in the air. When we have close to 10% unemployment in the state of Connecticut and sometimes higher unemployment in other parts of the country. And so folks are in this sort of frame of mind of, don't tell me about creativity and the intrinsic benefits of a liberal arts education. How the heck am I going to get a job? I mean, that I think is where so many folks are in the country. And, I mean, it's my dad was a salesman who sold colored dye stuff to the textile industry in New England. I mean, there's an entire sector of the economy that is gone now. I mean, it's all the skills that he had just don't compute in terms of today's economy. My daughter was talking to me about, Dad, I'm thinking of majoring in journalism. I said, that's really great. If you want to be in the field that's shedding jobs faster than any other sector, great. Go for it. How about something in the medical field? Please. Really, so you have parents having conversations with their children in terms of that education. You have people who are going back to school thinking, not so much for better or worse, how can I enhance my understanding of the world and, be a better person? And no, it's like, what are the courses I can take so that I can get back into the workforce because I just got laid off, or I think I'm about to get laid off, or the company that I'm working for is just in one of these dying sectors and I see the handwriting on the wall. So there is this sense of desperation right now, and that's one of the things we confront. And so people do look for scapegoats. And yes, why are we here? I mean, back to the history of time. you know, when I say this, people sometimes their eyes glaze over and they don't want to hear it because they want simplistic answers like it's the state employee's fault or it's the Democratic legislature's fault. You guys spent like drunken sailors, or you know, the state employees get too much. That's why the United States is in this world of trouble. But actually, you know, I mean, there were some conscious decisions, and I won't bore you for it, but it's my belief that, you know, in the 1980s, when Republicans suggested and Democrats went along with it, you know, let's stop enforcing antitrust regulations. Big is always better. Too big to fail is not a bad thing. And you saw merger after hostile takeover and acquisition, etc. Every time hollowing out our economy, every time shedding thousands of jobs that then add up to millions of jobs. And did it really result in a better outcome for this country, or did it lessen competition, lessen creativity, and the innovation that we get from folks at the small business end of the scale? You know, and the other thing was free trade. And, you know, Ross Perot wasn't right about everything when he thought that aliens were going to interfere with his daughter's wedding. I don't think he was right about that, but he may have been right. He may have been right about, you know, wait a minute, free trade with nothing in exchange is not free. And so when we just say, you know, level the playing field, in the United States of America, you know, just absolute free trade, and we're not going to worry that we're competing with countries that have no health and safety regulations, that employ child labor, that have none of the protections that we call civilization in terms of workforce rules in this country, no environmental protection or few environmental protection regulations, and that somehow is free. What it really has turned out to be is a race to the bottom. So we have, you know, over 200 years built up a certain quality of life in the United States, but now what you see is a pressure to drive everybody down. And we don't want, you know, we can empathize with folks in third world countries, but we don't want to drive our standard of living down to that level in order to compete around the world. That is not progress for the United States or human civilization. So, all right, enough of the big picture, you know, history of the world, but unfortunately we are in that place right now. It's not the state employees, it's not the Democratic legislature. The reason we've lost millions and millions of jobs is because we were sold a bill of goods about some key issues a couple of decades ago, and we're paying a very dear price for that right now.